one. Hey guys, welcome to Politics But Make It Fashion. Come interview with me. I'm your host, Amber Viola. And this week I have an exciting new guest on my show, Jacob Kelley. I am so excited for you guys to get to know them and talk to them and everything. So, Jacob, thank you so much for being here with me.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm super excited. For those who don't know me, I am Jacob Kelley. My pronouns are they, them. And I am a queer inclusive sex educator that runs my own business called Mixed Kelly Queer Education that specializes in LGBTQA plus inclusion, queer education, and DEI best practices and consulting.
Oh my God, I love that. I actually just did a DEI training, like my last year in my master's program at school. And I had the pleasure of doing DEI trans training with actual trans people. And that was the first time I had ever done anything like that. And I know it's important, obviously, like to having somebody who's teaching Black history who kind of knows about it and maybe as a part of the culture, but it was so impactful having a trans person teach about like trans diversity and inclusion and also like uh, discrimination and different things. It was good. I was in tears actually like half the time. But one of the things I really, really wanted to talk to you about was your school that you have and kind of like the training that you go out and you do as far as queerness goes. So, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so when it comes to the trainings that I do a vast, diverse forms of it. So I kind of have two categories I tell people when I do trainings. One training is more heavily involved in like what queer education is, and that's around pronoun usages. A lot of the times in teaching very basic then to high levels of the understanding of like gender, sex, sexuality, gender
Mm-hmm.
expression, and how that connects to our well-being and how we then develop our relationships around that and our values around that and then how we take those and apply them to wherever we may go or whatever we do. So that's kind of the first other part of it. The second part,
Yeah.
then definitely that higher level or that level you even just spoke about like the diversity and inclusion within certain spaces and like specifically the workspace.
Mm.
And in the workspace, like, those then connect to like, do you have best practice policies and benefits? And then like, do you know how to actually address microaggressions and implicit biases in the workplace? And then we can just go on from there. Like those are the two aspects of the trainings that I typically do.
Right. So do
I
people call you and have you come in to, so like say for me, I get Black History Month, all the phone calls. Hey, can you come in? Can you do a training? Can you come talk to people? Is that the same for you? Like, do you have a high time during like Pride where people are calling you to come in and give trainings?
Yeah, so a lot of times Pride in October, so that's also LGBTQA History Month, are my two biggest like highest moments. But I
Yeah.
always have to tell people, I'm like, well, it's all year round. We don't just go
Yeah.
away. So like, can we like start maybe spreading that out a little bit more? Or this year I've had an odd increase just because of the political climate that's happening with
Hmm.
laws and stuff. So people are like, oh, we want to learn more all of a sudden because of what's happening in media, which I'm not gonna knock that because it's business, but at the same time, it shouldn't have to come down to something happening for people to like learn and gain
Right.
type of.
Yeah. Do you feel like because of the political landscape that it's more positive for you being received as like a teacher and educator, or do you feel like it's been more negative?
This year alone, it's been more negative. Have I haven't had this whole experience. So this year, I got called a groomer. This was the first year that where I
The
sat.
groomer thing gets me. It's one of the things that I just can't. I don't understand where it's coming from. I just don't get it, and I'm like, do you know like the definition of what that means, guys? Because that's not it.
Yeah. So this year I've had a lot of positive motion with people wanting to support and do better and those kind of things, which I
Hmm.
think is great. And teaching compassion is a huge thing within this training. But yeah, I would say though that the general feedback, especially when I'm trying to get new businesses and trying to reach out and go, hi, this is why you should have me. Here, let's have a conversation. And the other forms of things I'm getting stopped with, I don't think we're there yet. And when I hear that answer, I'm like, well, it sounds like you need to be there then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How did you, so do you kind of cold call around during like to look for new business from schools and businesses and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I do a lot of more like email blasts. So I will go
Hmm.
find because I won't work with all businesses. I'll be right up front. If I think a business doesn't align with our mission, vision, and values, then it's an automatic like I'm good. Like I don't
Yeah,
need to like as much of a paycheck sounds good. I don't need that headache of like I feeling like I'm giving up my own integrity.
right.
So but yes, I will email cold email, and then I'll go to a lot of networking events. So like last night we had the NEPA gala in
Oh,
Wilkes-Barre.
I wanted to ask you about it. That was what I was coming up. I wanted to find out how it was. I was so jealous. I was
Yeah. So an event like that, I'm networking. As much as I'm having fun, I'm also like, oh, you're an important person. I'm also an important person. Let's talk. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
so that's also how I'll do get some more traction in my business, and podcasts like this are really great.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. I get asked a lot of questions about just the queer community and grooming and indoctrination and things like that. And it's just, for me, it's hard because it makes me sad because people really believe these crazy things. And I see so much of the misunderstanding and hatred comes from just like fear and from just not knowing. And it's like these people are watching these conservative, crazy news people or whoever, and it's trickling down to them. And they really think that like some random queer person is going to come into their school and like take their kids in a bathroom. And I'm just like, no. And statistically, your kid is probably being taken into the bathroom by like a parent or their teacher or their soccer coach. We're like missing the whole point kind of what are the things that are actually really affecting kids and stuff. But like the amount of hate and pushback that you get from just mentioning that is insane. And I just, have you had any like death threats or like anything crazy coming your way?
Not this year. I don't think I had anything super direct, but within the work I've done for the last few years, yes, I've had people threaten me. I've had people try to bully me and intimidate me. I've had people make it very apparent that they assume what bathroom I should use since I'm a non-binary and I dress femme sometimes, and they're like, make sure you use the men's room. It's like I've had people directly say that, and I'm like, hold up, what is like, where is this coming from? Like I didn't even ask for where the bathroom was, let alone bring it up. So there are certain
Right.
situations that people already put an agenda out for us, and it's like we just showed up here to exist. Like we didn't even get to all the things that I might need.
Right, right. And I've seen a lot of, and this is kind of one of the things I was worried in a political sense with the all the laws popping up because a lot of them are very vague. And I think they're vague on purpose. They're vague so that they can kind of put whatever spin on it and, whatever thing they want in there. But there has been a lot of Black women who now have been targeted by these like bathroom laws and things that you brought up because they present more masculine, even if they're not LGBTQA plus, like even if they're not trans, if they're just a woman existing in like more masculine body or a tomboy body or chooses to wear clothes that, are more along the lines of like indistinctive between which gender side you want to be on. And I was really worried about that because I know how Black women can really be perceived. Is there any other kind of like little nuanced things that you have seen that are the issue that you feel like maybe like we're missing with the bathroom laws or with different things like that?
When it comes to when we use vague terminology like forms of expression, specifically gender expression, I don't think, from what I've seen, I don't think people actually fully grasp what the idea of expression is because we just
Mm.
say, oh, it's gender. But what they don't know is that's socially constructed. So your culture is going to go in there, your age is going to go in there, your class is going to go in there, and we don't, your sexuality will go in there, and we don't actually take the time to if we're using these more vague terms or things that are not clearly defined, we will fall into these issues where um, we don't have uh, a direct way to say, is this allowed or is this not allowed? Because it's literally written as a vague statement.
Yeah.
Um, Beyond that, I know, putting sexual orientation is still a hesitation in some of these laws. And then people don't even understand what sexual orientation is or gathered, because then it's going off of the understanding of who we're attracted to or who we're seen with. And I'm just like, well, which one is it?
Right.
So,
Because it can be two different things.
right, right. So, and then there's family dynamics that come into mind when I think of this, because I was like, polyamorous relationships exist, and then like some of these laws, I kind of want to ask more in-depth questions of
Hmm.
when start saying, we're thinking of families. Well, whose families are we thinking of, and what dynamics of that family are we thinking of? And so we can go further into that, but like there's so much around the vagueness in some areas that um, I don't really appreciate, because it's not defined in the same way as who's writing it. Whoever's writing it has a definition, and then is not.
They have a definition in their head. They know
Mhm,
what they want to say. They know who
mhm.
they're targeting, and they're doing it on purpose.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't, exactly. I feel the same way. And it's so dangerous because these things can just trickle down into hate for everybody. I believe that hate begets hate. Like once you kind of have your hatred in your heart for a certain group of people, whoever they are, ethnicity, sexuality, whatever, like it's so easy to latch that hate onto other groups. And it just turns you into just kind of like a hateful person. And with these laws and stuff, we've seen it before against Black Americans in the US, but there was queer laws at the same time as that, and those kind of went under the radar, but they were able to be enforced because things were, just up in the air. And it was just like, okay, well, this is just going to apply to everybody today. And I think for the laws now, I'm worried about the reverse of it being focused on attacking queer people, and then underlined is going to hit minorities and things because it is vague and it's going to be who are we attacking today? Well, this law will fit kind of against this person and that person. So yeah.
100% agree. Like 100% agree with all of that. And it's one of those things. I'm like, history is going to and and it seems like it's currently going to repeat itself.
Yeah, it is exactly. And we don't teach history well, and that's part of the things that's going on with places like Florida and Texas is because we just don't teach history well, so people don't know that we're going to repeat it. I mean, even when you look at things like the Holocaust, there's people that still don't believe that a lot of Jews died, which is insane. But for the most part, people know that Jews died. But I think what they don't know is that there was a lot of gay people who were killed and a lot of gay people who were imprisoned in concentration camps. And then when they got freed by the US and the Allies or whatever, like when they went back to their own little country, they went back to jail
Yeah. I
because they
also
were like, it's just, there's so much stuff that people don't really know.
Yeah, and also with the Holocaust and those type of things, they also don't know the details of like the first ones being targeted were minorities,
Yep.
people of color, and then queer people, and then I've been to the Holocaust Museum to more educate myself, which was really great.
The
And
one in DC, the one
Mhm.
here in the
one,
States in DC.
the DC, yes, the one.
Yeah. Ooh.
And when I went there, I was so happy I went there because I learned a little bit more in different ways of how things happened that is not
Mm-hmm.
taught at all. And I don't think people actually know. Like they had pictures of like, here's who, you should not like, and here are people who like they have to fit the specific molds.
Yeah.
And if they do, like they're higher ranking. And even that alone is to me what's happening now in the sense of when we rank people of like when we get on these conversations of who's a predator or not predator, that's what it's coming down to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you
Because
look
then,
for?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the museum, I think that everyone should go see it and go experience it and take a day, and spend a lot of time there. For me, it was little things that really just stuck out, like the shoes. I love shoes. And so just seeing all the shoes, like it killed me
Mm.
inside because that was just something that was so like important to me. And then seeing that there, I was like, and people just lost everything. And so here, we'll bring it back to Pennsylvania. I've seen people who have come out as trans lose everything,
Hmm.
down to their shoes, because they now lost their job, and then they lost their car, and then they lost their house, and then now they don't have anywhere to sleep. Now they lost all their stuff because they're living on the street. So their stuff is just, gone. They can't keep it with them, and different things. And it's like, it's just so sad. And, and when you kind of feel like it's going to happen, I think that makes it even worse.
Yeah. And the worst part about that is it's preventable.
Yes, yes, yes,
If there are preventions to have that, and it,
yeah.
I sit on the board for the Trans Equity Project, and our mission is to empower trans individuals for the state of Pennsylvania. And so many people we talk to or help or support. One of the biggest things that everyone outside of the community asks, like, what do trans people need? And I'm like, food,
Yeah.
shelter, support, love. Like, it's very basic, and we have the resources to do it. It's the access to those resources. I actually used to work in a nonprofit where, I did have to help people within the community through, case management services. And when I worked there, I would be the one that people would call, like, hi, there's a person with hands that needs support. How do we handle this case? And I'm like, what do you mean? How did you handle the other ones? Like, I can help you
Right.
through the understanding of, like, maybe um finding out which name they would prefer to go by if it's not documented under their legal documents.
Hmm.
Work on that. But my first question is, why are you specifically asking how to take care of another person when you've been taking care of other people? So,
Like, what are you planning on doing? Like,
yeah.
what's the difference? They're a human, right? So, like, okay, first things first, are they hungry? Like,
Right, right. Like, do they need food? Do they have home? What's their steady income? And then we'll work on all those other things that come up.
right. Exactly. Yeah. So you seem so confident in yourself as such a young person. Um, and how did you navigate that? Like, when you decided to come out, and then I don't know if you came out as non-binary, or was that then another transition to come into that? Like, how did that happen for you?
I think you're the first person on a podcast to ask me this. Um, so thank you. I came out with my sexuality when I was younger. I would say I knew I was different when I was 14. I didn't really fully come out with my sexuality till I was about 18 or 19. And then it wasn't until I was around 22, 23 when I came out as non-binary, because I started to go to school and I got my master's in human sexuality education and learned a lot more to be like, oh, like that's why these pieces don't make sense to me and these ones do. So I eventually came out. My journey to gain that confidence was exactly a journey. I'm still on that journey. I've actually only presented in the ways that I wanted to, as everyone sees today, within the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's because I've changed my environment, and it was one of those, I would rather be happy and unsafe than survive. And I had to,
Oh, wow. That
yeah,
is
yeah,
that I want Can you expound more on that a little bit? Because I think that from the outside in, I don't think people understand why you're willing to risk it. Why are you willing to risk your life just to wear a dress, instead of just saying, hey, let me do what's safer for me and just throw some pants on and call it a day? Like, in what is that thought process? And I know you can't speak for the whole community, but I think that your opinion on it is better than
yeah.
other outside people who aren't going through that.
So I would say that my answer to that is, it's not just a dress, right? It's something that empowers me. It's one of the things I tell people is, I'm beautiful without anything on. But what's going to enhance my beauty? What's going to make me feel like I'm coming alive and elegant?
Hmm.
And when so many times you're taking um yourself and you're putting it down, right? And you're putting it into yourself in a box and saying, I have to be like this because I have to form to all these other things in the world, which is like I have to look a certain way when I go to work, when I'm with my family, when I'm going out grocery shopping. And it puts so much stress to be like, why can't I just wear what I want to wear and it still be
Mhm.
okay to be in these spaces? I spent more energy trying to not wear what I wanted to wear than what I wanted to wear. So for me, the safety part comes into because I could be attacked.
Or
I've been
yeah. Hmm.
I've been chased down by cars in the town I live in.
Oh
Like,
my God.
and yeah, and so I'm like, I sit here and go, you know what? Why is this worth it? Because at the end of the day, I'm smiling. I'm happy. I can look at myself in the mirror and say, this is who you are and this is who you were born to be. And ain't nobody telling me that I have to hide myself anymore. And it's the
Right.
power of like inner resilience and euphoria. Like there's this huge feeling of just completeness that I can't really explain. You just
Yeah.
sense it. So because when people like you look confident, I'm just happy. Like thank you.
Yeah. And clothes are so important, and like looking at you and your profile and everything, and I was just like, yeah, like clothes are important to them too. It can make or break your day sometimes.
Hmm.
And when you're feeling sick and you want to be extra pretty and you want to have it together. And I think that fashion is such an important thing in our lives. And when you tell somebody that they can't wear certain things, especially when there's not a good reason to, that can really weigh on you because it's the way that you really want to express yourself and show yourself to the world. And you should be able to do that
Hmm.
without fear of like somebody chasing you down a street, and did you find it to be so? I felt more dangerous when I was in the military serving under President Trump because of the amount of racism that started coming out and the amount of racism escalated. So there was points when after he was elected that I started to feel like stuff is getting a little more iffy places. Do you feel like it was when you first started kind of coming out when you were a late teenager, early 20s, or do you feel like it is more now?
I think so. When I think of the understanding of coming out, I don't like the narrative that we've placed on coming out, which is where I have to tell everyone. It's the experience of inviting in, and I've done more inviting in now. I've invited more people into my life to see this is how I am, this is how I think, this is how I
I
feel,
love that.
thing. And so for me to answer your question, it's more lately because I've learned how to be more vulnerable and say, come on in. If you really want to be in my life, I'm gonna show you who I am in my life. If you don't want
Yeah,
to be in my life, like you can stay out that door and you can look through the window. So like to me, that's how I view when I'm
right.
coming out or
I
how I'm
love the inviting people in. I hate the whole coming out thing. I think it's stupid. I don't like having conversations with people that I know is not going to go anywhere. Like I know it's
Mhm.
not going to be positive. I know that my feelings are probably going to be hurt after that. And I think sometimes you don't need to invite everybody in.
Right.
And I think that everybody shouldn't be privy to like everything about you all the time. And that can even be your sexuality.
Mhm.
I was outed by the Washington Post and it wasn't necessarily because and like that I was outed because I was living my life.
Right.
Like the people that knew me knew that I was queer, knew that I was pansexual, and didn't really care what anybody's opinion was. But there were people in my life who didn't know. And it was because I knew that now this conversation we're about to have, now you might not even be in my life. And, but I love that inviting people in. Like, yeah, there's certain things I do want to invite people in. And there's other people I'm like, we can stay out here.
Right.
And everybody doesn't need to be privy to kind of every single thing that goes on in your life and in your heart, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it shouldn't be this big thing. Like it should literally just be you coming home with somebody.
Yeah.
Hey, this is so and so now.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I think where the differences come in is when I literally look at people like, so what expectation did they ruin of yours? Because
Mm,
they people want to center other people around their self. And, like, you're centering someone else's experience around yours, and then you're upset about them because they ruined your expectation. The only thing I'm hearing is that you don't actually know who this person is, and you didn't center them in their center. Like,
Right.
you're not listening, you don't have empathy, and you're not showing compassion. So I'm very confused on when these. I agree. Like, I agree with, like, I
And then
don't
you should
think.
ask somebody a simple question like, why are you mad that I'm gay?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Like,
why?
to what degree does this impact your entire life?
How does
Like,
this affect you?
I didn't know I had so much power, but thank you for giving it to me, even though we won't ever
Yeah,
have
right. Like, Susan, I'm not over here judging you on getting up at 4 a.m. making your husband's little lunchbox. Okay. But like, whatever you want to do it. Hey. Oh my goodness. So how, um, how was it with clothing and stuff when you were a teenager and kind of trying to like express yourself but also trying to like maybe not all the way express yourself? How did you kind of navigate that for the kids out there who are trying to like
So
figure that out?
I grew up in a very close-minded household.
Were you
Um,
here in PA?
yes, I lived in Berwick. I live in Nesquebec now, but I lived in Berwick my whole life. I was not born in PA. I was actually born in Hawaii. But
Or were you a military kid?
I was, yes. My dad was in the Navy for 24 years. Great
Oh,
Navy.
nice. I'm a Navy vet. My mom was in the Army for 22. So I was born in Las Vegas. So
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Um, when it came to clothes, so my parents, mostly my mother, like, she picked everything we were supposed to wear, in the sense, not like what I wore every day, but like, when your parents have the money, they're like, you can buy this, but you can't buy this. And so I kind of, how I would express myself, I used to wear my one sweater that zipped up like off the shoulder, and it drove people nuts. And I was like,
Oh,
I feel good. Like, I was like, I
I
got
can
it off
see
the
it
one
just to
shoulder.
hang on. Yes.
But and so it was just like, that was one of the things I learned. I was like, I feel good when it's like this, and other people didn't, not my problem. And I remember there were so many things I wanted to do or have. I remember my first dress that I bought, and I remember putting it on, and I didn't, I think I was 18, and nobody in the house knew I had it. Like, I bought it because I had the money to get it myself.
Yeah.
I never wore it out in public for a long time, but I remember I had it, and it was a great feeling. It was flowy. It
Yeah.
was, and I'm just like, growing up, for anyone that's having now, like, if you can have a conversation with your parents, have that courageous conversation. It's not going to be easy. It could be, but it's going to be very difficult, because you're going to get those questions. You're like, why do I have to answer this question? Such as, like, why do you want this? Because I want. You mean,
Yeah.
like, I think when we come to clothing or something, certain things that children want, I don't think we always have to question. Like, maybe it's because it's their favorite color, or
Right.
they're
Yeah.
flattering. How about the conversations more like, oh, okay, you might be a boy that wants a dress, and you're just like, great, what size? Like, do you want to try a
Yeah.
few on? Like, have
Like, are
normalized.
we talking princess? Like, you want to
Right,
dress up at the
right,
house? Like, what are we doing? Like, where are we
right,
going with
right.
this?
Not a. I'm sorry, you want a dress?
Yeah.
And I think for these conversations, the kids or the youth, I'm learning, are learning to have a voice a little bit more towards their
Mhm.
family. But I do tell kids that for them, safety comes first.
Yeah.
Because the homeless youth population for the LGBT community is
It's
so
insane.
high, and it's
It's
even
so
higher
high.
for trans youth. It's one of those, I'm like, think of safety first,
Yeah. So
unfortunately.
when y'all over there yelling about the kids, what about the homeless kids?
Yeah, just putting it out there. And so, uh, you know, I think the power that we have to help our youth is in having uncomfortable conversations that can create positive outcomes. Because
Yeah.
question of what makes that uncomfortable, for the kid, it's going to be because they're vulnerable. For the parent, it's
Mhm.
because of what?
Yeah, yeah, and it's normally more about you than it is about them. So like people
Right,
got to figure it out.
right.
And I love that finding the little pieces. Your story reminded me. I had a good friend. His name is Hendrik. Hey boo. We went to a small private Christian school together, and I just remembered so much. He didn't come out till later, and I remember like thinking about him randomly because the way he wore his jacket, he wore it off his shoulders, and it drove them nuts. Like it drove them batty. And I just thought it was hilarious. To me, it just seemed uncomfortable because like your jacket's about to fall off. But it was cute and I was feeling it. And I was like, but why? I wouldn't wear my jacket like that, but why is it bothering you? Like,
Right, right.
why are you, I mean, angry about it? I'm pretty sure at one point he wasn't allowed to do it or whatever. But it's, and I think those little things, like when you realize that you're not allowed to just express yourself in those little tiny simple ways that other people can do, and it just becomes so hard. And then I have a question, and I don't know how to ask this because I've never asked anybody this, but I was reading an article and it was talking about how a lot of times queer LGBTQA plus people, when they come out, their fashion will be the fashion of when they were younger, when they weren't able to dress like they want to dress. Because the question was about coming out in the workplace and not and dressing immature and not professionally, but not necessarily dressing whatever gender, however you want to express yourself. What do you think about that?
So I actually 100% can see that and agree with it because there are dresses I have that I have gotten rid of now because nobody tell me they could have been better. So how dare those people let me walk around in them? But it was one of those when people come out, they only go to the thing that they knew most, and that's the thing they were inspired by. So it's typically their child, their inner child self, because
Okay.
that inner child self to me is that one person who is the one that was being shut down, and then they carry that with them. That's why when people come out later in life, they transform their entire life so drastically at a fast period because they built up this wall their entire life because of since they were a child, since they realized they couldn't express or come out in the way they wanted to. Now, I will say um, that's also going to be the only thing that they know, right? So they might not know how to dress in different ways because they were never taught. So
Mm-hmm.
they're going back to the basics when, they were taught how to dress, right? You need this type of, top. It has to go with your shoulders, your body, but then like their bodies change because if they're thinking of themselves as a younger self when they're older, like the silhouette is going to
Mm-hmm.
be different.
Yeah.
So someone's going. I've had to tell people like, you are 6'5", girl. You are stunning, but let me explain to you what this is going to do for your body. And she's over here like, but I look cute. And I was like, I think you
Mm-mm.
look cute.
You
If
could be cuter.
right, yeah, I think you look cute if you were 16. But girl, let's put something on. So we picked something else out for her and she was like, oh, you were right. I'm like, like I got her in the mindset of be who you are today, know who you
Today.
are in the present, and the
Yeah.
person, your younger self, will thank you. And it's a process, right? Because you don't know what's going to look good on you or fit. And I always tell people if you have a good friend or duty out there, like grab them and say, let's go on a shopping spree and try them on. Like bring that
Right.
confidence. I have
Well, how are trying on clothes? Like how is the shopping experience?
Well, first of all, I don't have too many people like going shopping with me. Not because I'm bad at shopping; they're bad at shopping. Uh,
I think we would have a great time and we would be
yes.
there probably forever.
But for me, I need someone that's going to boost my confidence. Like my best friend has gone shopping with me, and I asked her when I first was coming out, it was all about color. It didn't matter what I was wearing a tank top. I was like, do I want like the pink color or this like pale blue color? And she was like, which one do you want most that you wouldn't say in front of other people? And I was like, the pink one. She's like, we're going with the pink one then because she knew that would have done more for me. And she was that
Right.
confidence to help boost, like, we're doing it. Like, I will be there with you. It's not going to be scary as you think.
Yeah.
And that has grown to then I go with people. And when I'm in the women's section, I'm sitting there like, ma'am, I'm buying these pants just like you are. Like, I don't know why you're staring at me or looking at me. Or like, if I'm in the jewelry section or the shoe section, because I will buy heels. I have a lot of them. And people are just seeing me try them on, and I'm looking up. I'm like, are you paying for this for me? No?
Right.
Okay. Like you can keep going because it's just it can be very harsh in this area. And it's actually the number one thing that scares me the most because and what scares me is just I have to realize like I don't know if this person will then follow me to my
Follow
parking.
you.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Like I don't know what the after moment's going to be because I've been followed in stores before by people who think I shouldn't be shopping in this section that
Yeah.
I'm shopping in.
But honestly, like, what is the fucking audacity, okay, that you have to have in your life and like in yourself to follow somebody around because you don't like what they're doing? First, like, you have a lot of time on your hand, number one, because there's no way that I'm going in a store seeing somebody who I think is like not okay or like whatever, that I'm going to follow them around. Don't I have other things to do or like anything else? That it's just so weird to me. But you have to like keep that in mind because people are really crazy and it's dangerous out there. And like there is such this safety issue with just people trying to just live their life and be themselves. Like we're all here just trying to buy shoes. If I'm whether I'm trying them on or not, if you see me in a shoe section, mind your business. Like,
Right,
because you could be buying shoes for yourself, or who knows, you could be out there buying shoes for me. Like,
right,
they don't, you know what I mean? You don't know what anybody is doing. Like,
right. Yeah, it's 100% that feeling. I've also learned to just say something now. I'll call out, I'm like, can I help you? Did you want me to help you find something? Because you
oh,
called
did
the
you need
right
help?
person. Like, of course I will. And then like, no. And then or they just get quiet and walk away, or they turn heads. It's like, oh, okay. Heard.
Oh, you didn't need my help, girl? Because I can, because we can work on this. We can work on that. You know?
Right, right. Like I know I'm looking good.
Right. I love that. And I think asking, calling people out sometimes, and you do have to worry about your safety. But there's nothing better than when somebody says something stupid racist to me, especially in this area, and I just ask a little question or like say a little something and oh okay. Well, I'm sorry, but what did you mean by that? You people. Like who? Like Pennsylvanians? Like what what people, and then they just get all huffy and stuff like that and everything. But yeah, it can definitely be very scary and safe. And I am glad that I see now more younger kids expressing themselves through their clothing, through makeup. Like, I love people talk about YouTube and maybe it destroyed makeup for people or whatever, but I love the accessibility that it gave a lot of people who didn't have anybody to teach them, and they could sit in their room and do makeup and get it ordered to you and be able to do all that and just do things that you love and be able to express yourself. But people get mad about it, and it's hard, and I feel like we're going backwards. And with this election coming up, like, do you have any fears about the outcome of this election or like big concerns?
Um, I think my number one concern in any election that always happens is two things. One has to do with who's actually going to get voted in, and what direction things are going to. I know one of the things that I was advocating for was the Fairness Act,
Mm-hmm.
to be instated for the state of Pennsylvania to include gender identity and sexual orientation. So
Right.
there's protection there. So I'm thinking of like whoever gets voting in has the ability to either put this in there or take it out. And
Mm-hmm.
so things like that always like stress me. But honestly, when it comes to actual voting season is now what I call it because it's like a whole war zone in your personal life of who am I cutting out and who am I not.
Oh yes.
Because that is my more bigger fear because like certain elections that have recently come up in the past few years, I just sit there and go, oh, oh, like we're not friends
Oh
anymore. Like
no.
he's a family member
Mm-mm.
I'm probably not gonna go see anytime soon. You're a person like, that I'm sitting here and want to be like,
And
do
it's
you
heartbreaking.
yeah,
And I don't know if people think like liberals and we just love like cutting people off and you know whatever, but it's sad. And I cried so much losing people, and maybe they didn't even know I lost them, but you know, seeing stuff, and I'm like, damn, we're not gonna be friends anymore. And sometimes there was times where I would kind of not make that decision
Yeah.
because I wanted to hold on to that. And I think that there is a place for that too. I think sometimes people need time to figure stuff out. And, you know, you might not be able to cut off the homophobic family member right away or the racist one right away. You're going to, and you know you need to, but it's a process for you because it is kind of sad and you're going to miss that person. It's going to be like a little bit of a death. And then you have to think about your whole family or friendship dynamic if this one person isn't in it, because now are you going to lose your whole group,
Yeah.
you know, and that's hard for people.
Yeah. I definitely um agree with the mourning of relationships. And I think the other thing I think about is, do I have the energy to not cut this person out, but like maybe have a conversation and teach them and use that emotional
Mm.
labor to have those? And some I've had to, and they've paid off. And others I'm like, this is way too much energy for me to
Yeah.
be there. And then I
Yeah.
also go, why were we friends to begin with if I didn't
Right.
know the root of who you are was based in like homophobia, transphobia, racism, and xenophobia? Like, I kind of just sit here and go, I missed wherever you, however you hid
Yeah,
this.
I miss that part of
Right,
you.
like you got me good acting on you. Give the Golden Globe to you.
Yeah.
Like,
Because some people, they are worth having that conversation. You have to think about it in your head, like, do I need to just go sit down with this person and say, look, this, and this is why this is bothering me. This is why I feel like this about this law or this whatever, you know, and it's hurting me as a person. You know, when people talk about them changing the adoption laws and, you know, letting queer people adopt or, you know, queer people get married or queer people do anything, it's like, that might not specifically affect you in your life. That's literally specifically affecting me and it
yeah,
hurts me. So when you're supporting this person that supports that, you're telling me that you support that. And the amount of people I've had say, like, well, you know, I'm not racist or whatever, and I don't agree with their social policies, but I'm voted for them anyway. Their social policies say they want me not to be here. Like,
right. Like
so
the erasure existing in these people's policies.
yeah.
So, and I don't think people understand the power dynamics within that because they've never been put in a situation where you
Mm,
sit there and you wake up and you're just like, am I going to like, is my life going to drastically change because of the laws that were implemented in like,
right. Right.
I
Exactly.
also have learned I'm one of those people, I'm getting tired of playing the game of, well, let's see if it does happen because we don't know. I like,
Yeah.
no, I shouldn't have to put my life as a gamble for you to see if it exists or not.
Right. Yeah. 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 Now, cause I told people, I like when Trump got elected, I knew what was on the chopping block. And so many people are like, no, he's really not going to do that, or that's really not going to happen. I'm like, all right, well, I'm preparing my heart and my life for it. You can do whatever you want to do. But, you know, these people are saying what they want to do, and it's just going to inch closer and closer. You know, if we get somebody like DeSantis, in the White House, all the craziness that he's doing in one place would
Yeah,
now he'd be able to do that for the whole United States. And that is absolutely fucking terrifying.
yeah,
Yeah,
yep. I
it
agree.
really,
I
really is.
definitely agree. And um it's kind of heartbreaking. Not kind of, it is. It's
It
heartbreaking
is.
to know
Yeah.
that um won't look at the cons. They'll just be like the pros, like, oh, our economy is going up, or like there's a tax reduction in something that's minor, but
Yeah.
I actually can't get because it doesn't involve my class, but I think it does. Like, and then and then I'm just like, well, like there was how many bills for anti-trans laws that with this year? Almost 500, over 500.
Yeah. Yes. There was
And
hundreds.
I'm just sitting here like, who do you think did that? The people you voted for.
Yep. Yep.
Like, I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Like, and you thought they had a good policy, but then this policy is the one that they're actively working on. I'm like, well, where are the other ones they're working on? Oh.
Right,
I'd
right,
like to
right.
I'd like to know what the positive was because I'm only seeing the effect of the negative.
Yeah, what else were they supposed to be doing? Because it seems like they're taking all their time and energy really to just focus on this one small group of people that that aren't bothering anybody. And
Yeah.
it's just it is scary, and it is can be like really panic inducing sometimes because you just think like, what what could end up happening. And I hate when people use The Handmaid's Tale as like a reference or whatever because it was like low key kind of racist. But like could that be our future? Like could we end up in this dystopian type of world? Because as we talked about before with the Holocaust, like I'm sure at first people didn't fast forward like 2 years and see like, oh dang, this is what
Right.
we're in for now. This is the destruction. Because when you try to destroy one group of people or a couple, it destroys everybody.
Yeah. And the intersectionality of those pieces are never talked
Mm.
about. And actually, in some of these things, I remind people, I'm like, you know what a pink triangle stands for, right?
No,
And
what does a pink triangle stand
so
for?
triangle is what was given to those who were classified as gay or homosexual within the Holocaust. So
I did not know that.
that is how they were identified. So they had to wear
So they
them.
didn't have the star, they had a pink triangle.
I'm pretty sure they could have had both because I think the
Both?
star was related to those who are Jewish, but it was the pink triangle that identified them so people would know. And like, there's documentaries all about it of how like how they were treated and how it is a horrible thing in our community. But it's like that was the thing when certain people were elected that I was just like, I'll see if I will have a good pink triangle to start wearing.
Right.
They're
Hey,
like,
let me get a cute one.
right. And they're like,
Like,
I don't get it. And I'm just like, and then here we are today. I'm like, well, we're not too far off. Like,
we're not.
we're not too far. Like, I literally just got like called that drag as a crime, and I've been doing it for 10 years. Like, I might as well just make a pink wig and put it in the form of a triangle. At least I'll wear it
Right.
on my head. Like, I'm like,
Well, and you hear things that people say and they'll use words like eradicate or like, oh, we want to get rid of. And it's like, you're talking about me. You want to get rid of all the queer people. Like, who's gonna what does that mean? What's gonna happen? Who's gonna watch our kids and our family members and like the people that take care of their parents or like all the jobs that these people have? You're talking about this, you want to destroy the economy, you're gonna remove this whole group of people and you're gonna see what's gonna happen.
yeah.
And it's not gonna be good.
And
But
the other thing I always tell people is they need to start learning their history within
mhm,
all aspects of historically marginalized people. But for queer people, the conversation I've lately had now is everyone's like, why are these numbers going up? And I was like, do you all forget that the baby boomer generation, all died for the HIV epidemic pretty much? And like their numbers have depleted. So that's why it's only recent years that we're finding older gay LGBT
right.
plus people that are out. I will say that they're out and reporting because uh, now like those numbers are going up. And the only reason why I bring that up now is because we don't focus as much as we focus on our we still need to be focusing on the elders.
Your mic is going in and out, so just make sure you talk close to your
Oh, so sorry. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
Yeah, no, thank you for saying it. I'm always worried of like, am I? So yeah, I was just saying, the to have to focus on like our older generation as much as we do on our younger generation
Mm,
because we're stepping into a new era where we have
we are.
LGBTQA elders who are like new to what that looks like and how we can provide proper care for them and they're kind of the ones living a different generation in a more modern generation where today they're allowed to exist but they grew up knowing that they shouldn't or
Right.
felt like they shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. There are so many parallels as you're saying that to me to like the Black community. Because I remember getting asked by so many people why we don't have any like Black leaders, like big
Mhm.
Black community leaders and things like that. And it took me a second to kind of like, yeah, think about the question. I was like, because they're all dead. That's why, and it's the same for I've heard it as far as like why isn't there any queer leaders or people out there? And it's like, well, they probably died of AIDS. So that's probably why they're not here now. And let's like think about that. But people aren't taught those things. And like I don't know why I'm super paranoid about like all STDs and AIDS and stuff. And I just was reading this article coming out because our STD rates are going up. And the reason they're going up is because of abstinence culture and because of this fear of talking about sex open and honestly and having conversation with our kids, you know, middle schoolers and high schoolers, and teaching them how to protect themselves, how to protect against pregnancy, to get tested, to do all those things. And I think there was such a big like shun away from it after the AIDS epidemic. And I think there's a lot of people who think that if you tell a kid to practice safe sex, they're just going to go out and have sex. And, you know, that's not true. They're going to now have the tools that they need if they make that decision to do that. But, you know, there's just this, it's getting so dangerous out there. And there's now like syphilis strands and gonorrhea strands that are like super strands that now like antibiotics aren't fixing and things. And we're so like sexually oppressed because we're so scared that people are going to be gay that now this is a side effect of that.
Yes. Half the reason why I started my business and am on the journey that I'm at is directly in this conversation at this moment because we're so worried about the idea that our sexuality should be taboo and not talked about, or if it's not the specific way that the dominant culture believes is the natural reasoning, so that's in like the
Mm-hmm.
understanding of mating, then it shouldn't exist. But then we don't have conversations of like, so what about consent? Where does that come up? Because
Right.
if we're teaching abstinent only, that means we're not talking about consent. We're not
Yes.
talking about
Yeah.
how to build healthy relationships, how
Mm-hmm.
to have
Domestic violence and in there. Oh my,
like,
yeah. Yeah.
so if there's so many things that can go wrong with it. And I've worked in the field with HIV actually. I've had to diagnose a few people where I used to work in my life, and it wasn't a good event, but it was a blessing for me to learn how to gain empathy in someone else's life,
Mm-hmm.
because my goal when I had to do it was like provide comfort and to let them
Yeah.
know like there's no shame in this. You're going to be okay. We are have grown. And so many people in this area I've learned still think it's like the 1990s.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, no, 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 like we will go past this. And then there's like that's then combating stigma and
Mm-hmm.
combating against demographic populations, because the information being put out around certain topics like HIV is the high people or the highest people to contract this, or people of color or trans women. But then I sit there and go, we live in an area that's predominantly white, heterosexual, and cisgender. The highest demographics to get HIV in our area are not these populations.
Yeah. No, it's just white people. Like,
Yeah. So I'm just putting it out there that even the facts that are even told are not properly
yeah.
taught in education. So when we teach abstinence only, they're not getting this information. In fact, I have people who reach out to me because I let people know in the state of Pennsylvania, they do not have to actually teach sex ed in schools.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. And that's what I was trying to tell people because literally when this whole thing was starting up, and I was like, y'all do realize they don't teach sex education here. So
Yeah,
y'all worried about something that's literally not happening
yeah,
at all. Like
yeah.
it's not. It's not. It's not. It maybe it's a thing somewhere else, but I was like, it's literally not happening here. So, oh God.
Yeah. So I'm as an advocator, I've reached out to a few
Yeah.
schools to be like, hey, I can be a guest speaker or an educator for your classes, your health classes, even to do like 2-day training or
Mm-hmm.
educational session for the students at a very basic level where you can even approve my curriculum if you'd like, to at least so that they can get something that's
Right.
not, don't have sex, don't touch each
Yeah.
other, don't look at each other. And then I'm like, okay, but and then the other thing I want to bring up that I always think about when they talk about youth is, so what do you do when they're on their cell phones and they're on those apps and they're messaging each other? Are you talking about that? Because technically it is abstinence because they're not doing anything, but what happens when someone sends a picture or a text
Mm-hmm.
message that can be a little off-putting,
Right.
and you don't teach them that boundaries are important, that
and
you
and
can't,
teach them what real grooming is.
right,
Like that
Right.
actually there's people out there on the internet who are,
Mm-hmm.
my daughter is on Minecraft. And I talk to her all the time and I'm like, hey, that there's people that lie and they say they're kids and they're not
Yeah.
actually kids. She's like, really? And I was like, yeah, I know
Yeah.
it's crazy. Why would somebody say they're 7 or whatever? But people do that. And having these conversations about like, when you talk about sex trafficking,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people can end up in that situation because they sent nudes or somebody took a video of them or
Mm-hmm.
they did something with somebody and now those things are being used against them and now they're being basically held hostage, whether it's mentally somewhere or even physically. And it's like you need an outlet to be able to talk to kids about those things and the things that aren't safe and aren't consensual. And if you sent somebody nudes and now they're trying to blackmail you, we will figure that out. And that's not your fault that this person is trying to blackmail you.
Right.
We
Right.
and there's so much stuff that they don't know that's not happening under the guise of like we're just gonna tell them not to have sex and that's it. And that's gonna be fine, you
Right.
know.
And also, if certain schools do provide any form of education, the parents have the right to opt out.
To opt out. Yeah, yeah,
So,
exactly.
under the understanding of it being controversial, and I only know that because I have read the outlines they send to the parents, because parents will send it to me, and it will say, um, due to controversial beliefs and opinions, parents have the right
Right.
to opt out of, X, Y, and Z.
Hmm.
HIV being one of them.
Even with teaching people about HIV, because there is a really like straight Black women have a very high number.
Mhm.
Um, but it's not due to really anything they're doing, it's due to relationships with Black men who are
Mhm.
not straight, who are
Mhm.
not being safe.
Mhm.
And that is a whole other conversation that I think people don't really understand in the guise of like sexual health. Because if I'm sleeping with you now, and then you're sleeping with other people, then I'm sleeping with those people too. And
Yeah.
then if I'm sleeping with other people, we're all sleeping with everybody together. And even though you think you may have just a monogamous relationship, you still need to prioritize your sexual health and think about your sexual health and know what that means and know that even if you're in a relationship, it's not bad for you to still want to get tested. That's okay.
Yes.
That doesn't mean you don't trust that, like whatever. It's about you and doing that. And even trying to, I don't know how it is trying to date for you, but Lord over here, okay, with some of these men's, like, I'll say, talk about protection or getting tested, and they look at me like I'm the problem and like I'm crazy. And I say, no, boo, but the reason that Amber's been all whole and healthy over here is because of this. And these conversations need to be happening. If you're starting to date somebody and maybe you do want to move to a more serious relationship and not use protection and things, the questions need to be had. We need to talk about some things, and it might be uncomfortable and that's okay. But when you're taking away everything for people to be able to have safe sex, and now you can't give out condoms to places and there's no Planned Parenthoods or STD clinics and different things, you're taking all of that stuff away from people. And now we're ending up with these clusters of like gonorrhea outbreaks and syphilis outbreaks or HIV outbreaks in certain places because of our fear of being unwilling to have these conversations and talk. And it's hurt. This is hurting our kids.
Yes. Yes. To all of that. I teach people and I practice the if I'm centering my sexual health or health advocate, like I'm advocating for my health. And that's what it comes down to when we ask these questions of like, have you been tested? Have you recently been tested? How many frequently partners do you have within the last 3 months or 6 months or whatever the time frame is? And you're following up on these questions. Like that's all health advocacy for ourselves.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
people think like health advocacy, oh, that's with our doctor. No, it's not. It's related to
Yeah.
anyone that could impact your health, and STIs being one of them.
Yeah.
So it's 100% there, and I agree with you. For me, I've had more than enough people um honestly reject me because I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna engage with you without like knowing that you have like I need to see
Right.
the document. I'm not a word of mouth person. I'm
Oh,
over here
and
like
people will tell me like, "Oh, well, they told me." They told you what, girl? Like what? What did they say? That they're a unicorn? Because
yeah, like
I didn't.
if I was like, I'm not saying I don't have trust in people, but it's easier for strangers to lie to another stranger.
Yeah, yeah. And that needs to be part of the health discussion, especially with teenagers.
Yeah.
Definitely needs to be about it. And when you talk about STDs and STIs and stuff, like people can be asymptomatic and just running
Hmm.
around spreading stuff. When I was in the Navy, we had a couple of different outbreaks. When I was an instructor at school, there was a little outbreak. On the ship, there was an outbreak, and it just because people were having unprotected sex with everybody. And I think in the military, a lot of people were assuming that, oh, well, these people are clean, like we have health insurance, like nobody. And it's like, no, because you still have to actively go to the doctor. And like, people aren't doing that. And some of these, they're kids, they're 18, 19, 20
Hmm.
years old. And girl, some of the stuff that I have heard,
Yeah. I
dipping things in alcohol afterwards, or I mean, I would just be like, where do you guys find this stuff? Like,
yeah.
it's crazy. And and it's wild. And it made me sad because I'm like, you guys are out here and you need to learn these things. And even if you make the choice not to do anything, you still have the power to then when you do want to do something, you know what to do.
Yeah. And I also think how we market people getting
Mm-hmm.
tested or going out to make sure their health is well managed
Mm-hmm.
is who we centering because the biggest center I see around HIV clinics or health clinics is around the LGBTQA plus community. So I'm not knocking that, but then the majority of the people though are not LGBT
Yep.
people that are
Yeah.
coming in. So
Yeah.
when I had to do testing, I've had more than enough people say, "Well, I'm not
I'm
gay,
not
so
gay, so why? Yeah.
I don't need all of that." And I'm just sitting here like, "What?"
Yeah. There is
Or
still a very gay stigma to it. Yeah, definitely. And you're
um
right. A lot of the clinics, anything I've seen that has been really a big push for testing has honestly almost all been LGBTQ. Like like organizations or groups and things really pushing that. So that's a very true statement. Yeah.
like I see a lot of, and I'm happy they're there. A lot of different clinics that are at prides in those big events.
Hmm.
But like we just had our multicultural pride festival out in
Yeah.
Wilkes-Barre in the parade, and I'm just like, did anyone call the STI clinics to come and support that culture?
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's
Got
very
it.
true. Yeah.
Right, like or like a youth type day or anything like that. Do we have specific clinics there to let them know why or why not? Chances are probably not because they're afraid of having that conversation with the parent when the kid's like, "What are these?" Those are
Yeah.
condoms. These are condoms we have out for free.
Right, right. Yeah. That's a really good point to have those things to be available there. But here in Pennsylvania, I mean, in a lot of our schools and stuff, we don't even have nurses. So, a lot, it's just we're taking so much away and then we're running into so many of these other problems that like the community has had to have to fix and sort out. But once the community side of it now is being attacked and you're taking away these clinics and free clinics and Planned Parenthoods, and I mean even closing hospitals to where there's areas that don't even have hospitals and stuff and they're medical deserts, and then you're at a school and there's no nurse or anything, and you're leaving people just a lot of nothing, you
Yeah.
know, just a whole bunch of nothing. But I want to now kind of turn the conversation a little bit into like, I want to focus on what you're doing now and the things that you're involved in, and kind of like where can people find you? How can people reach out to you to like get a hold of you to know what you're doing and stuff?
The easiest way is you can go to my website at juicywithjake.com and it has all my information, what I do, the very vast services that I have, including both training, consulting, education, but also my drag services. And I strongly have that in my business for the simple fact of keynote speaking speakers, but also like drag should be at the equivalent as any other profession, in any other type of art profession. So I definitely strive that in there. I sit on multiple LGBTQA plus boards, including the NEPA Pride Project that just had their day
Yes.
yesterday. I sit on the Eastern Pennsylvania Trans Equity Project, which serves 21 counties to empower the trans community within the state of Pennsylvania. And I
What is
am
that called again?
the Eastern Pennsylvania Trans Equity Project.
Okay. I've never heard of that.
Yeah. So we just expanded to 21 counties as of this year. I think we were at 16 or 18 last year, and
Nice.
we've just been growing, and we really want the trans community to know that there are people here to help them and have services, and they do many different services too, like they help people with name change policies and grants so they don't have to pay for it.
Right.
And other types support group services and clothing services. I'm also the co-president of the Association for Inclusion, Respect, and Equity, or AIR, which is out for Snyder Union, Northumberland, Columbia, and Montour counties. We are the ones, actually, I was the one that created the first Pride ever in Columbia County. And so we help that community out there in those counties. So those are my nonprofits that I sit on the boards for and do all of that volunteerism in the community. And then beyond that, I'm just working on project after project, and those projects, like I just wrote a book this year, and I'm an author officially, so that's exciting. Thank you,
Congratulations.
thank you, thank you. And there's more to come. And I also just spoke at my first organization that is international, so they were also in Europe and in the US, so that was exciting to experience two
Oh,
different
hopefully
cultures.
you can go over to Europe and do it too. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I so we did it virtual, but also I can't wait. My twin lives in Spain. They got deployed to Spain. They're in the Navy, and I'll
Hey,
be.
boo.
I know.
I was
uh,
stationed in Virginia
okay.
down here too. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
know like the same people, and like it was just such a random thing, like coming across both of you guys because I was like, oh, I'm in Virginia, and I was like, oh wait, there's one in PA. Hey,
Yeah. So I'm just working, slaying, and if anyone ever needs any type of, I guess this is like one of those, I'm too humble for the answer to this question because I could brag about myself, but I'm like, nah, look me up if you want to have a conversation. Um, I've also, yeah, I'm a multifaceted individual that has just, I'm not going to stop helping people learn comprehensive education, but then also learn the compassion it needs and takes to help people.
right. So, question a little bit more lighthearted. So, where do you shop around here in this area, or do you do most of your shopping online, especially stuff when you're looking for stuff for like drag?
So for drag, I know a lot of different people online. So I'll see a lot of the designers and creators that I love, and I will reach out to them, be like, "Can you make this?" Or if they have something they already made, I will probably buy it. A lot of stuff I'll say is actually online. I will say, don't knock those thrift stores. I found a lot of good stuff in thrift stores in Pennsylvania. I have this beautiful 60s dress that I wear all the time that I absolutely love. Good patterns. So thrift store shopping is one of the key assets, both for drag and not drag. If you're looking for something to put back in style, be the one that puts it back in style. Unless it
Yeah.
shouldn't be back in style, like
What?
low rent.
Like Loretta, please don't bring those back.
Like
I
those.
just I just saw they're bringing back tramp stamps too, and I was like, that's a whole thing. I just can't. I'm okay with the tattoos. Like I do enjoy the lower back tattoo, but the combination with that, with the low rise and the thong thing, I can't go back
I'm
there.
all I'm saying, if it's not a winky face or a lipstick, I don't know why we're doing it. Because if it's gonna mean something, I want someone to have that good, good moment that they get to look at. Because I get to look at it. It's on my back.
Right, right.
I'm gonna make it for them.
This is for you. Okay. This is not for me. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I had such a great conversation with you, and I feel like I honestly learned so much. And I really wanted our listeners to be able to have a little bit more education and background kind of on the different um, LGBTQA plus issues that are going on, positive and some not so positive. But I think it's such a good perspective to get people who can talk openly and honestly about the things. And also, when people can see your life and kind of understand the safety issues that you have to go to, or the need to want to express yourself by wearing a dress or different things, and why those things are important. And it's important to have these conversations, and there's people out there who don't know anybody like us, and they're getting all their information from a very biased set of media, and so they don't really know any real queer people or gay people or trans people who are just out there just trying to like live their life. And we have to really shut down this whole grooming thing and indoctrination. And we need to be able to be willing to teach kids our things that make even us uncomfortable to sit down and talk about. So thank you so much. And where can they find your book? Is it out?
Yeah, so it's on Amazon. It's called Tipping is a Must, 100 Tips to Run a Successful Drag Show. And it's all about tips that relate to 5 different areas. So the point of view of drag and drag queens and drag kings and performers. Tips for audience members, because that is a huge thing that doesn't get talked about enough. Backstage etiquette, and then like venue owners and people who want to run shows, and then just general fans of drag people. Like those are typically like the tips that talk about what drag is and isn't, and like not to gatekeep other people and their abilities. And so
Oh, I love drag. I love drag shows. I love drag queens. I love drag queens. I love everything about it.
well, I'll
The
let you know when
nails, the lipstick, the hair, the flipping,
I'll have
whatever. I
I'll have
love
to
the
let you
body
know.
inclusivity of it,
Mhm,
of
mhm.
drag. That's something, one of the first things I saw when I went to one of my first drag shows. I was like, oh my God, hey, like there's no shame in their game. And I mean that with like every ounce of respect, because looking at somebody and I'm like, know what, girl, you are up there big and beautiful. And I needed to see that today. And there's other people that need to see that. And I just loved how like inclusive the drag community is with that aspect. So I think I think it's so beautiful. And the gay community has sometimes some issues with body inclusivity with other, they're definitely like the standard kind of like twink gay, image that a lot of people think of. But I
Yeah,
think when you see drag, it really expands that to so much more.
yeah,
And it's really great. I think everybody should definitely always go see a drag show if you can. At least once in your life, see it, enjoy it, love it, tip, have a good time.
and if you're unsure if it's a good drag show, just come to mine because they're always good.
Yes. So is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with today?
So the motto I have within my business of Mixed Kelly for Education is be the person you needed when you were younger.
Mm, yeah. I love that. So thank you so much for joining us on Politics But Make It Fashion. Come interview with me. You can find us on TikTok at Politics But Make It Fashion. You can find us on Instagram at Politics But Make It Fashion 1, and we are on Facebook. Yes, we have a new Facebook page, guys, because of the big hack. It is Politics But Make It Fashion, and we will chat soon. So thank you. Hold on, I'm gonna turn my
You.
camera around. Thank you so much. I will get this together today, and I'll probably have it edited, and it'll probably be up sometime this evening, and then I will send you the link for it.
Perfect. Thank you so
So
much.
yeah, and I hope that we can hang out and meet in person soon. I was trying to get to the gala, but my mom wanted to come. Like we both go to it, and then she's my babysitter. So she was like, I was like, so are you gonna be mad? Like if I just go and you babysit?
It was definitely good. I thought this year was a lot better than last year. Um,
Yeah.
this the theme
Was
was
it? Because I wasn't actually sure about the theme.
I
I
loved the
saw it
theme.
and I wasn't sure, and I was like, I wonder if this is good or not.
I yes, So I love 70s, and people actually like, turned out better than last year. Last year, I don't know if people were like, I don't know what to do for space, so they didn't do much. But
Yeah.
this year, people really gave all aspects of the 70s, and I was here for it. And the music, I loved the music. They actually played mostly 70s music, so it actually the
This is
vibe.
the only gala in the area, really honestly, that I go to that dances. Because all these other, I'm like, okay, we're there from like 6 to 10. So like at least 9, 8:45, 9, like we need to have dancing. Like what? And then it's like over.
Yeah.
And like I even at like one of the NAACP ones last year, because I think it's at the same place. And I was like, so we just leaving? There's a great band, great music. Nobody's dancing. What is this? Like,
Yeah.
ugh, it's tragic. But thank you so much. Yeah, and I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Yes, yes. Please don't be a stranger.
Absolutely not. Bye.